Hello again, everyone. Welcome back. In this technical analysis of the stock market video, since it's the end of the first quarter, I'm going to provide a segment of the weekend market analysis that I provide to my members every weekend. I hope you find it helpful. Hello again, everyone. Welcome back. This is the weekend market analysis for Saturday, March 30th. I'm actually recording this Friday afternoon, or right around noon on Friday. The only thing that's still moving around is the dollar index. So it's moving around, but not that much. It's pretty slight. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap everything up for the week, our holiday shortened week here. So here's the ETF dashboard. This week we had 13 sectors positive, 3 negative. Last week, 15 up and 1 down, pretty strong. And, we've been strong, as you know. Year to date, we still are 14 positive and only 2 negative, and the 2 negative real estate and telecom at this point. So last week, look at this. We haven't seen this in a long, long time. So have utilities be the most positive percentage mover in here on the week. And semiconductors was the most negative of the 3 that were negative. Semiconductors, technology, and communication services. But semiconductors, it's going to be a long time before it gives up that lead because there's nobody even close to second place. You got to go all the way back to just a 12.5%-ish or so to get to second place on the year. It's in just amazing move that semiconductors have had. The index ETFs, the Russell 2000, exploded to the upside. The Qs, the Nasdaq 100, it wasn't the only one negative. The transports, IYT. That's not the Dow transports, but it's the closest I can get to the Dow transports. It was also negative, but the Qs were down 0.5%. Everything is positive on the year. The S&P 500 continues to lead, up 10% on the year. Emerging markets. Let's see here. We had everything positive in the emerging market sector, with India taking the lead, up 2.2%. For the year, EFA continues to be the strongest, and Brazil continues to be the weakest, down 7.3%. Commodities. Everything was positive except for natural gas, which that seems to be the modus operandi for natural gas, down 3.6%. Gold, I've got these two. I've got light blue here on oil because they were almost identical. 2.68 and 2.67% gains between gold and silver. On the year, though, oil is clearly well ahead of second place gold at 7.6%. Currency in here, let's see, only one was negative, euro. Everything was positive. British pound was the leader, edged out. It was above the dollar this week, but the dollar's still the strongest on the year, and the yen is still the weakest on the year. Japan gets a lot of news and headlines about all of a sudden, I believe, and I think this is still the case, that they don't have any negative interest rates anymore. It's like, wow, who had ever been talking about negative interest rates 25 years ago or whatever? And but I think they finally are into where that has gone away. They're slightly positive, but the yen is still sitting where it's sitting. The TLT, everything was in the bonds. Everything was positive. In emerging markets, debt, it just keeps trucking along. Up 2.6%, 4.3% on the year. And TLT is continuing to lead to the downside, down 4.3%. Okay, so that's the picture that we've got here at the end of the week. Let's take a look at our indices. Okay, the Dow Industrials were up 331 points on the week. So, continued strong move. Although the way it backed off on the prior week, we did not take out that high, at least not yet in here. So we're still within the prior week range. Similar, no, I think the S&P actually did take out the 5264.85 and the high here, 52. Yeah, yes, it did. Slightly took out the high. I thought it looked like it. It up 20 points on the week. And then we take a look at the Nasdaq 100. It was negative, down about 85 points. and it was a little inside, slightly down type of candle in here. But everything continues to trend to the upside. The one that's got the most divergence is the Nasdaq 100. Okay, a little bit possibly developing here with the Dow Industrials. Okay, nothing on the SPX at this point, although this little picture makes me suspect that this might be getting ready to run out of steam. We'll see. I've talked about this before. When you see either the green or the red cross below the ADX line, a rising ADX line, depending on if it's high enough, sometimes it's an indication. It's not a guarantee. Nothing's guaranteed. It seems like the higher that happens in the scale, that it's more significant. So it's definitely got my attention. You notice how right here on the SPX, it crossed below the ADX. Where did it do it? Right in here. Right here on this candle, right here. And what did that lead to? Multi-week lows. Okay? Until the red line crossed back above it. And it was a sign that it was trying to turn. It took several weeks for it to happen. But anyway, so it's kind of, I look at that and I say, you start to say a little flag waving, and then we'll just keep an eye on everything. Side by side, the industrials and the transports. The transports were up 200 on the week. I was trying to figure out what was going on. Oh, that's the all-time high. That's what that is. I'll show you. Yeah, that's the all-time high from November or October, the end of October, basically, the week of October 31st, 2021. I remember that. That was when Hertz, I think it was Hertz, said, oh, hey, we're going to have a whole bunch of Teslas and EVs, whatever. I think they may have even gotten rid of them. I saw something about that a few weeks ago. But, the maniac FOMO surge into that created that peak high for the Dow transports that hasn't been taken out yet. Now, we'll see what happens if this is going to start doing one of these and continuing to move to the upside. We'll see. Okay, so that's where we are now with the that picture. Let's go back to the Dow Industrials. They're up 47.29 on Friday. Just a little bit of follow through to the upside. Yeah, it's a new all-time closing high. Okay, so let's take a look at that Elliott Wave picture. So let's look at the weekly view first. Okay, so here's the picture. A, B, I've still got this as a large flat. Okay, I still think that's a very real possibility. Now, I'll tell you, I've got this like this, an A, B, C for cycle wave A, because I think cycle wave A could very well be a large flat in and of itself, okay, which means if we get a sell-off, which could go as low as A or beyond, okay, once we get that three-wave move, you could then count it as a three-wave for A, and then on a cycle wave, a large cycle or super cycle wave, we have a big flat developing. That's what I'm suspicious of. So I'm watching this. Now, I'll tell you, when you look at a flat, they normally show a flat, like for this A wave right here, this one, they always show an A wave with a zigzag pattern. But there is, and I've said this before, there is no rule that says it can't be a flat. The only rule is that in a flat, the A wave cannot be a triangle. That's the only rule. Okay, so we'll see what happens in here. And so that's why I'm watching. The other guideline is that when you get an expanded flat like this, like I'm showing it, okay, B wave, when it expands and goes beyond the beginning of the A wave, it becomes what you call an irregular pattern, irregular corrective pattern. It typically will go between 100%, which is the beginning of A, 100% of A, to 138% of A, okay? Right up here, 138.2 to be exact. That's what it typically does. And so because that's the guideline, that's what it typically does. When it gets above that level, it's getting unusually long for a B wave. And therefore, I'm going to move to my alternate count that says something stronger and more bullish is going on. So that's the logic that I'm using on all of these major indices. So right now, nothing has invalidated this. And by the way, when you look at the RSI in here, look at this divergence showing up. I'm a little wary of this right now that I'm seeing it. It's similar to, although not as extreme as what we had going into that peak right before the COVID crash. Now, I'm not calling for a crash, but I'm just saying as of right now, we've got a divergence on a weekly view of about 5 weeks apart. Now, this could go away. I mean, if we continue to push higher in here, the RSI could go higher. So just be aware. But, you know, it's something to just start paying attention to. Now, here's what I'm looking at in here on right now for this C wave to finish off the B wave, an ABC corrective pattern. I need 5 waves. And right now we're in the 5th wave. And in here, to me, this is the best count we've got. It implies that we have a little more to go to the upside yet. We'll see. Okay, so, you know, and I'll talk more, you know, I always talk during the week about, I look at the intraday type of patterns and stuff. On the weekend, I like to focus primarily on the daily and weekly view, more of the longer term, bigger picture kind of thing. Okay, so here's what's going on with the industrials. Let's take a look at the SPX. Now, up 586 on Friday, up $20.17 for the week, so continued push. No divergence like I talked about showing up just yet. Here's the Elliott Wave count, similar to what we talked about with the Dow. Here's that 138.2%. And yeah, I'm calling this a flat, expanded flat. When you go beyond the beginning, expanded flat. Okay, and so when we look now to see what could be happening in here, I'm looking for this 5th wave to finish off, and based on this, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot more to go. I mean, we could be there with the high on Thursday, or just over the next, you know, Monday, Tuesday. I mean, it just does, you know, based on this picture and this wave count, we don't have very far to go. Okay, so we'll see if that is what plays out or not. Okay, so that is the S&P. And when we take a look at the Nasdaq 100, down 26 on Friday and up, wait a minute, what am I looking at? That's a monthly view. That reminds me. Okay, let me go back real quick. I wanted to show you the monthly view since it's the end of trading for the month of March. So here's what happened on the Dow Industrials for the month of March, up 811 points. So 5 months in a row, big push, little less, about the same. Looks like maybe a little bit less when you look at the ranges in here. Let's go take a look at that SPX again. Here's the weekly, here's the monthly on the SPX. Up 158 points, straight up, 5 months in a row. Okay, now, I mean, we've had some straight up type moves before, but yeah, it's going straight up. Things don't go straight up forever, so we'll see what happens. That's the SPX, and then the NDX. That's the monthly view, up 211 points for the week, or for the month. So remember, that caught my eye because I was like, wait a minute, I just talked about how the weekly view is negative, and yeah, here it is. The weekly view is down 85 points and down 26 points on Thursday. Okay, so that is the picture there. And then I am looking at, I'm still holding the blue analysis in here, looking at this. 138% level, and how close are we, ABC? I think we're there, okay? Based on the daily count, I think the high is there, and that's why I've got it right here. Why? Because I've got this C wave because of all of this overlap, overlap. I've got this as an ending diagonal pattern in here for C wave. Okay, and therefore, I think that there's a high probability that the high that occurred on the 21st, which was a week ago Thursday, was the high. And if that's the case, then this is going to break down and should break down and start to take out these lows very quickly. Okay, so that's what we're looking at in here with the NDX. And let's take a look at IWM. Now, IWM, Russell 2000 ETF, definitely kind of threw us for a loop in here. I really thought that this was the high and that we were working our way down in a nice little wave count picture. And basically, the market, the Russell 2000 said, not so fast. Don't think we're done yet. So here's what I think's going on in terms of my preferred count right now. I'm going to say that this C wave is still trying to extend. Remember how I had this wave 1 right here as an ending diagonal pattern for C? So what I'm doing is I'm labeling this as a leading diagonal pattern, and that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves for C still yet to be completed. Now, it could be that this is just a little bigger ending diagonal. I just don't think so when I look at it, and believe me, I've been looking at it. I'm like, could it be, could we have 1, 2, and then where's 3? I mean, where's here, 3, there's no zigzag here. And this is what keeps throwing me, because we could have had something nicely, but there's no zigzag here. Okay, so anyway, this is my best count, which implies that there's more to come. Now, the alternate is that there's even more than that to come to the upside. The alternate says we got a bigger wave. We got a big move going on. Something like this. Again, up in here, this is all a path forward. This is what I'm looking at that says it could be something like this is happening. Okay, but I'm not jumping to that conclusion just yet until we see how these waves start to unfold, because right now, given all of this corrective activity we've had, this still is very valid, and the fact that the IWM is still trying to finish off a B wave puts it in sync with all the other indices that are the way I've got it labeled as a B wave, right? So that's why I'm staying with this as the preferred count. So that's where we are with IWM. And yeah, it sure acted strong, and it sure looks like it wants to push quite a bit higher in here. I mean, we haven't even gotten above the Kelter channel yet. Now, several times it got to there and then just failed. But back over here when it was pushing in this first big move, it hardly, it'd get there sideways, get there sideways, get above and continue. So you just never really know what you're going to get. But because this pattern was kind of an overlapping-ish type of pattern every time it got to the top of the channel, there was no further price action to the upside. So right now, I'm thinking this is over with, and then we've got a corrective pattern, and that I think we're going to get something a little more impulsive in here. We'll see. Okay, so that's where we sit with the Russell 2000. Okay, let's take a look at our indicators. Okay, if you felt like that video was helpful, give it a thumbs up, and then head on over to my website here at joehenches.net. All right, everyone, have a great weekend, and happy Easter to everyone who's celebrating Easter.